GMOs were introduced into the U.S. food supply in the mid-1990s. Since then, the number of GMOs that were in our food skyrocketed, and basically any product that is processed is almost certain to contain traces of GMO products in them. You may now ask yourself, why does it even matter if GMOs are in almost every food that Americans consume in the U.S.? Well, that is a good question indeed. GMOs have long been debated upon as to whether we should even be consuming them due to their long list of negative side effects to our health, what they do to farmers, how the economy will be affected, how multinational corporations who control GMOs will act, and what this will mean to the consumer in the long run. The other side simply believes that GMOs are beneficial because they can supposedly cure world hunger, they can provide a more nutritious plant or vegetable, and for soil sanitation. Well, from my research and knowledge, despite the growing number of countries refusing to use GMOs in their food production, more clear and accurate research is needed to determine whether the U.S. should continue to stick with or eliminate GMOs. So far, my preference is leaning towards not using GMOs at all, but in the worst case, making sure every GMO is labeled in supermarkets and wholesale stores so that people who choose not to eat GMOs can simply avoid them in their diet. Different countries have different policies for whether or not GMOs should be labeled. However, in the U.S., it is required that all ingredients should be listed and be made clear when a certain ingredient is making a huge difference to a person's health. The American Medical Association does not believe there should be any reason why GMO foods should be labeled if it poses no risk to the human body. It is good for the consumer that the U.S. is listing all the ingredients in its foods and products so it can help a majority of Americans not consume GMOs if they do not wish to. Furthermore, the AMA is not right because some people would rather choose to avoid GMOs in their diet, so it would be wrong to do so. Although most of the information that is heard about or reported on about GMOs is usually negative information, there are actually some real examples to how GMOs can benefit the consumers and the farmers. One way GMOs can help farmers is they can improve yields under weed and insect pressure and also minimize the amount of pesticides that are used. Also, the way water is used becomes maximized. As demonstrated by the unprecedentedly rapid adoption of this technology among farmers, GM crops can provide farmers with the means to improve. However, the problem with genetic engineering is that the genes do not function in a particular area. Instead, they act in the entire human genome. The problem with injecting a gene from one species into a totally different one is that it can produce unexpected and undesirable results. All these methods are currently only through trial and error, and there are already so many errors in them. From my research and knowledge, and after consideration of the pros and cons of whether the U.S. should or shouldn't use GMOs in our food supply, my final stand is that the cons outweigh the benefits by a significant margin, and this is why it's better for the U.S. overall to stop using GMOs in our food supply.